Think of as many East Coast heavy rail rapid transit systems as you can. Which is the best? Surely the New York City subway, with its extensive service area and 24/7 operating hours, has to count for something. And the DC Metro, with its cavernous, brutalist design, is wonderful. And while only having 3 traditional heavy rail rapid transit lines, Philadelphia certainly packs a lot of variety into one city. And I didn't forget Atlanta. Riding MARTA is still on my to-do list. But what about a certain East Coast city with some of the most important railroading history in the United States? How does its metro fare? I think it's finally time we had a look at the MDOT Maryland MTA Baltimore Metro SubwayLink. The Baltimore Metro SubwayLink, yes, that's actually what it's called, is a single metro line that runs from Johns Hopkins Station, just northeast of Baltimore's famed Inner Harbor, through downtown and then up to Owings Mills, northwest of Baltimore. On Monday through Friday, the 14 stations on the line are served between every 8 and 11 minutes. Weekday early morning and weekend service have decreased frequencies, with trains every 15 minutes. Weekday service hours run from 5 a.m. to 12 midnight, and weekend hours are from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight. Frequency, or should I say frequency link, isn't amazing, but it's not awful, especially compared to something like the Silver Line in DC. Plus, the Baltimore Metro SubwayLink opens a whole hour earlier than the DC Metro on weekends. That's gotta count for something, right? Ridership Link has taken a hit since COVID, with between 380,000 and 540,000 passengers per month riding the Metro SubwayLink, according to the 2024 data currently available. Prior to COVID, the Metro SubwayLink saw much higher ridership, with multiple months seeing over 1 million riders in the mid-2010s. Today I'll be taking a ride from Charles Center Station, right by the Inner Harbor, up to Rogers Avenue. The station entryways are pretty wide, somewhat reminiscent of the DC Metro. An accessible entrance is located nearby, with elevator access down to the mezzanine and trains. But we'll be taking this escalator link. Also similar to the DC Metro are the wide-open mezzanines found in the downtown Baltimore stations. At Charles Center, on the upper level you'll find fare machines, fare gates, and a station attendant, and below that is an intermediate mezzanine, which you cross briefly before heading down to the platform, and fare gates to another exit are here as well. A standard fare is $2, with a day pass costing $4.60. You can purchase limited-use Go Pass tickets or reload a Charm card, the MDOT MTA's fare card, from these machines, although they can only take cash. If you don't want to pay with cash, you'll have to go either online or in person to the MDOT MTA's transit store at 6 St. Paul Street, close to Charles Center Station, where they can take card payments as well. Online and at the transit store are also the places where you can acquire a Charm card, and they'll give one to you for free at the transit store. Plus, if you already have a Smart Trip card from the DC Metro, it will work exactly the same in Baltimore. Just note that passes you load onto your card in DC won't work in Baltimore, and passes you load in Baltimore won't work in DC. The same goes for using a Charm card. It will work in Baltimore and DC, but the same rule for passes will apply. Unfortunately for us, the Metro SubwayLink is single-tracking today, so frequency is pretty poor. This is not the train we're getting on, this is one to Johns Hopkins. Look at how fast those doors open. Still faster than DC. Shortly after a Johns Hopkins bound train passes through the station, our train towards Owings Mills arrives, and it's pretty crowded. Our train's here. It's only a 4-car train. Because the interior of the train was so crowded, I wasn't able to get great footage of what was on the inside. Thankfully, my good friend Shortline 819 provided some footage from a previous trip we took to Baltimore together. These trains are Budd Universal Transit Vehicles, or UTVs, from the early to mid-1980s, and they were the original rolling stock for the Metro SubwayLink, which opened in 1983. And Baltimore has been the only place you can ride these vehicles ever since the Miami Metro Rail retired theirs. The MDOT MTA is in the process of receiving new cars from Hitachi, and eventually there will be no more Bud UTVs in revenue service anywhere. But for now, Baltimore has these Bud cars, and I think they're cool. The seats are cushioned with this blue fabric, somewhat similar to what you see in the 3000 and 6000 series currently in service on the DC Metro, and a simple LED display shows station and bus connection information on board. Back to my journey link to Rogers Avenue, my train stopped and held for quite a while at Mondawmin Station because of the aforementioned secret tracking. Other than this, the ride was pretty good. There's no cell service in the tunnels like there is in DC, but if your train isn't single tracking, it's really not too long of a wait to go without cell signal. The line only takes about half an hour to ride in its entirety, and only the portion south of West Cold Spring Station is underground. And speaking of West Cold Spring, here's where our train popped above ground to run elevated the rest of the way to Rogers Avenue. The system is pretty clean, trains are comfortable and reasonably frequent, and the 1980s vibe present throughout the system is a cool feature. From what I can tell, the downtown underground stations are all unique, with different artwork and decoration at each. For as timeless as the waffle arch design of the DC Metro is, the exact opposite can be said for the Baltimore Metro SubwayLink. It's very obviously very 80s. Sure, some people might prefer a more modern look, but I think the Metro SubwayLink is a pretty good time capsule of 1980s design, and that's pretty neat. For what the Metro SubwayLink has in Comfort Link, Speed Link, and Frequency Link, it lacks, well, good rail transit links. On the one hand, bus connections seem to be pretty good, with automated bus connection announcements on board. On the other hand, connections to the Metro Light Rail Link are available, but they involve either a 1 or a 2-block walk from Lexington Market or State Center respectively. This is certainly not a bad walk, but it would be nicer if the transfer was easier, or, if the light rail were just a Metro line that interchanged with the Metro SubwayLink underground. Even a Philly-style Center City tunnel for the light rail would be an improvement. The stations would certainly be large enough for that extra demand, and maybe you would even put that intermediate mezzanine to better use. And while Baltimore's bus system seems to be pretty comprehensive, and buses are the main east-west transit link in the city, transit in the city could be much better. Baltimore should really consider constructing an east-west metro line, and the city could benefit a lot from it. Another connectivity issue with the Metro SubwayLink is that its route misses 2 important rail hubs. It doesn't serve Baltimore Penn Station, the main intercity and a large commuter train station for Baltimore, served by various Amtrak services and the Mark Penn line, and it also misses Camden Station, a more regional station for Mark Camden line trains to Washington, D.C. Camden Station has an amazing cross-platform transfer to the light rail link, while Penn Station is just kind of unserved by local rail transit at the moment, but neither of these stations have a good link to the Metro SubwayLink. There's definitely room for more transit in Baltimore of the rail variety, but that's not the focus of this video. My point here is that the Metro SubwayLink runs a good service, but lacks good connections to other rail transit. Back to my own trip link, we're arriving at Rogers Avenue, a pretty simple elevated station in a more suburban part of Baltimore Link. It's a much smaller station in comparison to the cavernous downtown ones, and there's an elevator access at one end of the platform and stairs and escalators take you down to the mezzanine and fare gates. There is an upper-level bus connection, but most buses leave from the bus bay under the station. And yes, our Baltimore bus adventure will hopefully be its own video at some point in the future. So, is the Metro SubwayLink good? I would say yes. On the operational side of things, it's a pretty good line with frequent trains, clean and spacious stations, and cool 1980s rolling stock. Connections to other transit modes leave much to be desired, but in terms of moving people between downtown, Owings Mills, and places linked in between, the line effectively and efficiently does what it was meant to do. Now, is this the best route for the only subway through Baltimore? Probably not. But other parts of the city were meant to be served by other lines that just never got built. In the context of that system, this line would have had infinitely more connectivity, but that's not what happened. Instead, Baltimore is left with this one-line link. And I'd say it has a better passenger experience than Philly's Market Frankford line and Broad Street line have, what with its cleanliness, clear wayfinding, and ease of use. Also, Baltimore subway trains are often more frequent than trains on the blue or silver lines of the DC Metro, so that's saying something. I think that if Baltimore had built out its entire subway system instead of just one line, the Metro SubwayLink could be considered among the better of the subways of the Northeast, perhaps on par with the DC Metro. That's pretty good. And unlike the sometimes awful frequencies on the light rail link, the MDOT MTA actually knows how to operate a subway line well. And before I finish up, I did want to mention, I'm sure many of you are already aware, but the M.dot MTA stations play jazz music over the station loudspeakers on their own radio station. The station is used to push out transit updates as well, and most systems would have just installed a PA system and called it good enough. But no, Baltimore had to go above and beyond and make a whole radio station. The online radio broadcast will be Baltimore Metro Subway linked in the description if you want to take a listen. As with every video, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this M.dot Maryland MTA Baltimore Metro video link, make sure to like link, comment link, and subscribe link. I'll see y'all next time, and enjoy the rest of your week.